Are we live? All right, we're good. Back in action here with our regular council meeting. Before I move forwards, I should have noted this earlier, but Councillor Gale did let us know that she had a little fender bender on the way here, so she is absent with a valid excuse. But before we move any further forwards than that, we need to adopt an agenda for this evening. Look for a motion to do so. Councillor McDonald?
I'd actually like to motion for an amendment to the agenda. I'd like to amend to include a closed session item placed ahead of item 5A, quoting section 29(1)G of the Access to Information Act, advice from officials.
Okay, any conversation about that amendment? Seeing none, I'll call the question on the agenda as amended. All in favor? Okay, so we shall slip back into the council private room for just a few minutes to discuss the closed session item, and then we will be right back. Let's say we'll try to be back before 6:15. So public, we'll be right back. Oh, sorry. Before we move into the closed session, we do need another motion to go into the closed session. Thank you, Councillor Verdego. Councillor Verdego?
I'll make the motion to go on camera.
Okay, all in favor? Carried. from the public for your patience. Let's get back into it. First, we need a motion to come out of closed session. Look for that motion. Councilor McFadden.
I so move.
Thank you very much. Conversation? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Now let's move into, I guess we missed adoption of previous minutes. Item 3A. Can I get a motion to adopt our minutes from the last meeting? Councilor Singh?
Make a motion to adopt the minutes.
Okay, thank you. Conversation? Seeing none, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Over to delegations, we have none this evening. That brings us to business. Item 5A, Alberta Community Partnership Grant. And with us, we shall have Christine Raves, Senior Advisor of Intergovernmental Relations. Mrs. Raves, please take it away.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. The purpose of tonight's report is to seek Council's support for administration submission to the Alberta Community Partnership Program, which is a grant opportunity provided by the Government of Alberta. There are various funding streams under the program, and we are applying under the Intermunicipal Collaboration Stream, which is intended to support partnerships of 2 or more local governments for regional service delivery plans and frameworks. We are asking for funding to support our work on an intermunicipal development plan and intermunicipal collaboration framework with our neighbors, Rocky View County. We are asking for $200,000, the maximum amount that can be requested under the program. Cochrane is leading on this application as the managing partner because Rocky View County has several IDPs and ICFs to complete, so they are taking the managing partner role on another application. The deadline for the application was November 28th, but the deadline for council support is a bit later due to tight timelines of when the application's opened. Rocky View County's council supported this application through a motion and their role as project participants on December 2nd. This is just a bit of an overview of the projects for which we are seeking funding support. So under the Municipal Government Act, municipalities with shared boundaries must adopt an intermunicipal development plan and an intermunicipal collaboration framework. Recognizing I'm simplifying this quite a bit, but a development plan is used for land use planning, and a collaboration framework would be used for service responsibilities and cost sharing. Previously, Cochrane followed the growth plan by the Calgary Metropolitan Region Board. Now that the regional board is no longer in effect, Cochrane must rely on our own plans with Rocky View County. There are deadlines for both of these, and they both have to be completed by November 30th, 2027. The development plan the deadline is under the Municipal Government Act, and the collaboration framework, the deadline is under a ministerial order. We do have an existing development plan, although it is very outdated. It's from 2001. So we're working together to update it within this timeline, and we don't have a collaboration framework, so we'll be creating that document. I recognize there is likely interest and questions on our development plan and future collaboration framework, and I want to assure Council that we will return with more information on these 2 projects in Q1 of 2026. And we're also incorporating the intermunicipal committee prior to this. In the meantime, we're seeking the funding support through the grant to help administration with these projects, including public engagement, third-party facilitation and mediation, technical studies, and legal review. In terms of financial implications, the total project costs are expected to be around $330,000 in total, split between both municipalities, so $165,000 each over the next 2 years. Our grant request to be shared between Cochrane and Rocky View County is the max available, $200,000. The remaining amounts of $65,000 each will be from our respective budgets in 2026, and then again, if needed, in 2027. Because both these projects are required under the Municipal Government Act, Cochrane has actually budgeted for the projects in a way that ensures we will be funded even if the grant application is unsuccessful. So for example, we have budgeted $115,000 for 2026 and would make a budget request of $50,000 in 2027 to complete the work to cover our half of the $330,000. In conclusion, administration is seeking council support for our application for the Alberta Community Partnership Program. Thank you for the opportunity to present to you this evening. I welcome any questions council may have.
All right, thank you for your presentation. Council, any conversation? Can we get a motion on the floor to move forwards? Councilor McDonald?
I'll make that motion. So just to summarize what I think I know, these documents are required under the MGA, and so we have an opportunity to offset the costs, and that's what we're endorsing, potentially,
Through the chair to Councillor McDonald, that's correct.
instead of paying it entirely ourselves. Right. That's all the clarification I needed, I think.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Singh?
Thank you for the presentation. Just briefly, if you can mention for the residents who are watching or reviewing later, what is IDP and ICF? What are the importance, like briefly importance, and for a long-term planning and service coordination?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So through the chair to Councillor Singh, the intermunicipal development plan, which we have in effect, it's adopted through bylaw and it's on our website, but it's from 2001 and really quite simplified. It can be considered a land use planning document. For the collaboration framework, which will be new for Cochrane, this is essentially service responsibilities and cost sharing. And so there are actually 5 mandatory services that need to be covered under the collaboration framework. And this is transportation, water and wastewater, including stormwater, solid waste, emergency services, and recreation. We can include other services under the collaboration framework if both Rocky View County and Cochrane agree, but those services, the mandatory ones under the municipal government, have to be included in the collaboration framework.
Thank you.
Councillor Singh, just for the benefit of residents as well, if they wish to go onto the Government Alberta website, there is a whole section that's dedicated to ICFs and full explanation and details. So for anyone watching at home.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further conversation? I'll call the question. All in favor? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Council.
Carried. Next up, what was previously item 5B, now item 5C on our amended agenda, Cochrane Lions one-time capital funding request. And joining us to present it is Miss Michelle Ambrose.
All right. Good evening, Council. Tonight I'm here following up from last week's Committee of the Whole, bringing forward the Cochrane Lions one-time capital funding request. Intuitive completed a reserve fund study as part of the 50-year lease negotiations. The intent of the study was to establish a disciplined long-term asset maintenance framework, while the primary purpose was life cycle planning, and the study also identified a range of safety and accessibility considerations. Based on the findings of that study, the Lions have submitted a total funding request of $131,750 to address a package of accessibility and safety upgrades, which are outlined on this slide. Administration completed an internal assessment of the site and has reviewed the request to understand urgency, life safety risk, code requirements, and alignment with town standards. Through the technical review, administration is supportive of the majority of the intent behind the Lions request. 2 of the items identified would be required to meet safety codes if a future renovation occurs, and are therefore not driven by an immediate code deficiency. With respect to the ball diamonds, administration supports the safety improvements. However, the funding level has been adjusted to reflect that portions of this work can be completed using existing town resources and the operational capacity that we have. So at Committee of the Whole, there was a request last week, administration to provide the definition of renovation. So administration sought clarification from safety codes on what constitutes a renovation. That would trigger the requirement for a building permit and compliance with current accessibility and building code standards, including the need for an accessibility lift. Safety Codes has confirmed that renovations are defined as works that materially alter the structure, layout, or building systems and therefore require a building permit and compliance with current codes. By contrast, maintenance type work, which is what was proposed, so that's painting, replacing flooring, and other improvements, does not require a building permit and would not trigger those upgrades that identified the accessibility lift. Based on the reserve fund study and the Lions submission and administration's detailed review of the safety and accessibility priorities, administration is recommending that council approve the full request from the Cochrane Lions in the amount of $131,750,000 to be funded from the general operating reserve. Based on council's discussion last week, administration felt like the recommendation to provide the full amount of funding, particularly to ensure that the event center is fully accessible, is reasonable and aligns with the direction and intent that was expressed through those conversations. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Councilor McFadden?
Yes, thank you very much for the presentation and the overview at last Committee of the Whole. I certainly move the recommended action that council approve the full Lions capital funding request of $131,750. And I mean, this is an easy ask to support, to my mind. It's investing in the facility and improving on the safety and accessibility, which really resonated with me, and of course investing in the ball diamonds and the recreation as well. So I certainly support this action.
Okay. Any conversation? All right, short and sweet. Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And I will ask council, before we move on to the next item, which is shaping up as though it may be the main event of the evening. Do we need a bathroom break for a quick 5 minutes? Not seeing the request. Okay, please carry on.
All right. So tonight I am bringing forward a recommendation for the proposed Cochrane Lions 50-year lease agreement based on the Committee of the Whole conversation December 1st. As an update from last week, administration received the draft lease on Thursday and shared the lease with the Lions on Friday after the initial review. As council will recall from last week's presentation, the area highlighted in pink represents the Lions' current lease footprint, which is approximately 4.75 acres and includes the existing rodeo grounds and event center. This remains the baseline context for how the site is currently maintained today. And this slide shows that the full site that is included within the scope of the negotiated 50-year agreement. And it is just to provide clarity of what we're talking about this evening. So at council's request from last week, administration is providing this information in response to the questions that were raised. With respect to the public hearing timeline, the proposed schedule meets all required legislative notification and communication timelines. Based on that schedule, the earliest feasible notice period would begin December 30th, with the public hearing occurring on January 14th, and a final decision being brought forward back to regular council on January 26th. This results in an overall extension of approximately 26 days. With respect to the financial implications for the Cochrane Lions, the figures shown on the slide have been provided directly by the Lions based on their current understanding of costs and funding assumptions. Administration has reviewed these figures at a high level and are therefore being presented as information for council's awareness based on what was provided. Finally, administration confirms that it is possible to extend the current agreement should council wish to do so. Under the extension, the Lions would not assume any additional liability, and the town would continue to operate and maintain the spaces in the same manner as that are currently in place. This recommended action reflects the direction administration heard at Committee of the Whole, where council expressed an interest in broader community engagement before moving forward. In response to that direction, administration is recommending that the current agreement be extended to February 1st, 2026, and that the non-statutory public hearing be scheduled for January 14th, 2026. Administration would also bring forward a clearly framed public hearing question to support focused and consistent feedback from the community. The purpose of this step is to complete the engagement process so that council has the benefit of hearing directly from the community, from the Cochrane Lions, from administration in one single open forum before final consideration. This ensures that the full range of perspectives is on public record prior to council's decision. Administration would then return to council on January 26th with the proposed 50-year lease for council's consideration following completion of the engagement. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have both Chris and Trent available to answer questions if council wishes to have them come forward and help answer questions as well.
All right. Council, who would like to kick us off with a motion for discussion and debate? Pregnant pause. Can't be me procedurally. Councilor McFadden?
Yes, thank you very much. I will move the recommended action that council directs administration to extend the current agreement to February 1st and to schedule a non-statutory public hearing on January 14th at 5:30 p.m. and further that admin return to council on January 26th of 2026 with the 50-year lease for council's consideration. So just to get the ball rolling on this, I guess. So two questions, I guess, for clarification. I think it was everyone's hope that we would be able to get the public hearing done before the end of the year. And so why is that not possible? I know we're trying to get creative here, but I'd like everyone to understand.
Mm-hmm. Through the chair to Councillor McFadden, there are legislation requirements of notice periods for public hearings. And with the Christmas break, there is a requirement to have notice in the newspaper as well. And so making sure that we're able to still complete those requirements with the holiday break is why we would be looking at January 14th.
So, and that's due to the impacts of provincial legislation that doesn't allow us to move ahead faster?
That is correct. And the MGA.
Okay, Municipal Government Act, okay. And then, can I get an update? So, can I get a review of what the language was of council's direction in the March agreement, or in the March decision related to the agreement?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor McFadden, I will try to remember what it is verbatim, but it was shared last week where council directed administration to negotiate, to extend the current lease to the end of 2025 and negotiate a 50-year agreement by the end of December 2025.
Sorry, say it. So that the goal was to get the agreement
Yeah.
drafted and agreed upon by the end of the year, or drafted and negotiated by the end of the year?
That's correct. So we were directed to the current lease that the Lions have. We were directed to extend that. We completed that in April. The 50-year lease, we were directed to negotiate the 50-year lease by the end of 2025. So the lease has been negotiated and it is currently in draft form.
Okay, oops. Thank you, that's my questions for now.
Councilor McDonald?
I heard you say, Michelle, that you received the draft lease on Thursday. Has there been adequate time in admin's perspective to review that draft lease between Thursday and tonight? And that question has two parts. So I'm looking for an update on the town's review of that new draft, but also the Lions review of that new draft.
So through the chair to Councillor McDonald, yes, so we received the draft lease from the lawyer on Thursday. She asked that I did a review of it and then share it with the Lions. So I completed the review on Thursday and then shared it with the Lions on Friday. So from the town's perspective, there's only been a couple of days to actually review like the legalized version of the lease. Yes, we've spent the last 6.5 months negotiating the lease and understanding the concepts, but it has been translated into legal format. So we have not had a lot of days to have eyes on it. I can't speak for the Lions. It was only shared with them Friday, so I don't imagine that is a lot of time to be reviewing the lease as well.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we don't, if this all went forward, there's do you think there would be enough time before January 26th to make any suggested changes if we haven't heard back yet on the Lions' perspective on the latest draft?
Through the chair to Councillor McDonald, I'm not anticipating any significant changes from the Lions throughout the period that the lawyer was drafting into the legal form. I was in contact with them on any questions that she had. So there have been no material changes to the lease itself. Any changes that were made, it was just to make sure that it was in legal format and they were kept in the loop on that. So I'm not anticipating any material changes in that review.
Okay. And then I think lastly, I just want to acknowledge the kind of conflicting conversations that are happening where we're considering tonight leaving space for a public hearing, but we're also hearing about the final nuances of a lease negotiation. So I just want to kind of comment on those two things being a little bit incongruent in my mind. So I'm curious to hear my colleagues weigh in on that.
Councillor Federico?
I'm curious on the staff position. Can you go back to that slide? The staff wages of 82,000, can you explain what that is for? Because this is the first time, I mean, I think that it was mentioned last meeting, there was some financial impact, so I understand that's where that number comes from, but I just have to be clear on what that is.
Through the chair to Councillor Federico, my understanding the staff wages are for a contract that the Lions would like to begin on December 15th with a maintenance person and potentially any other staffing that they have. I haven't been given direct information on all of the staffing requirements, but that's been the information so far, is that the Lions feel like the financial implications of postponing the signing of this agreement are that they would have staff wages impacted at $82,500 based on the agreements that they currently have.
Okay, and is there any way for that to be, obviously if we're talking about extending out this agreement for a decision at the end of January, could that not be modified that we consider covering a portion of that 82,000 to get us to the end of January?
Through the chair to Councillor Federico, I don't have the number on what that would cost for the month of, like that month postponed, but I am unclear of what the contract that they have with that staff member looks like.
Okay, I'll leave it at that for right now.
And perhaps, council, if that would be an opportunity for the Lions to answer that question as well. If you're seeking that information, again, we only have access to so much information in this regard, so.
Yeah, I would be curious if we are looking at delaying this. I understand that position is an important negotiated position, but is there a way to buffer that financial cost? What does that look like? I'm just curious from their point of view.
So I'll invite Trent, who's the Director of Operations for the Cochrane Lions.
Hi, my name is Trent Landenweber, Director of Operations. Through the chair to Councillor Federico. Due to Privacy Acts, I can't get into full detail. What I can say is, because that is between us and a personnel, it's not business to business, so for privacy reasons, I can't get into the full details of that. What I can say is, it has been made clear to us, if we don't go forward by December 15th, we lose the grant. So it's not a matter of a month, we lose the grant for this and following, I can't say the word perpetuate, anyway, forever, the amount granted to us. So it's actually way higher than that, but that's for the first year is what we lose that grant for. That is much as I'm allowed to say, according to all Privacy Acts, and your council would agree.
Back to Councillor Federico.
I think where we all end up in a hard problem is that there's been lots of messages coming into the inbox in support, and I think I think there's 4 of us who voted in support. And so I don't want to lose sight of that, that it's not that we aren't sitting in support, right? But I think there are some elements that become somewhat fuzzy with the public eye. And because of the fact that it was to negotiate the lease, not sign on the dotted line by December 31st. I haven't slept much over this past weekend thinking about how this goes, because in reality, I only really see one option, and I've made it clear in some of the emails that I have answered, is that the town of Cochrane has no financial ability for, I'm not talking about 5 years, 10 years, probably 3 decades to financially do anything with the upper or lower bench of Fifth Avenue. So thank God the Lions have come forward to say, hey, sticking up your hand, and we don't have a long list of other applicants looking to jump on in and develop it either. So I understand the importance of that and working out that partnership, and I still support that partnership. The public, though, becomes the other part of it that feels that they just haven't had time, and the misnomers that exist out in the community is still that some people think, there's seniors housing happening on this bench, right? I feel like there's been a big lack of communication, and certainly not on one side of the party or the other. But that information is where we get caught at sitting around this table, is that we're representing the entire community altogether. I don't know if there's a way to deal with the staff wages, because I certainly understand that as being an important part of this. I don't know if there's a way that council just says, possibly continue on. I don't really know what that looks like. I'll wait to hear from my counterparts. I'm just trying to be as honest as what I can in my position right now, that it's a tough place. I understand the merits, but when you're getting into a 50-year lease, even with off-ramps, to public who maybe don't necessarily know all the details, it becomes scary in their mind and risky, although we can all say that we understand those risks, and we understand the lease agreement, and we understand what's going forward. I guess that's all I can say for right now, but I might come back to it. But just trying to give you my honest opinion right now.
Trent, did you care to reply to anything mentioned?
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief, and very good points through the chair to Councillor Fedeko. We also share that concern with the community. We have 40 to 50 user groups, the same as the Parks Board, the same as your plan to adopt for a master plan. We have a mini master plan to adopt. And so I'll respond to it in 2 ways. 1 month, you think we're gonna have a master plan done? You're gonna educate people on a 50-year lease with a 2-year termination clause. The 2-year termination clause, that gives us 2 years to educate the public. We're hoping to do it in the first 8 months with town on the board with us, as well as all of those user groups, a representation for them all, so we can educate them. That's what the plan was. Because it's impossible to properly educate the plan when they're gonna say, for example, are we building senior housers there? Are we putting a soccer field there? I heard that tonight. Well, I don't know, we haven't engaged the soccer club yet. But the community liaison position is there to communicate with every one of those groups and bring it to a mini board that we've created, and that everybody has been a proponent of. That's exactly what the town's needed, is to get everyone's voice in there to create that vision and educate them. If you feel we can do that in a month, I don't know how, I can't be part of that. To do it properly, to do it even within the 8 months for the first land use designation that we're gonna aim to do, is gonna be a lot of work. And to delay that again, sorry, we're volunteers, and you're right, you're working with a bunch of volunteers and we're not interested in checking boxes.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate all those comments, Trent. I wasn't in the first Lions meeting, like when this was first brought up. I think I was in the March meeting, where I did definitely vote in favor, and I still support that decision. I guess it just seems a little clunky when you're signing a lease prior, and yes, there's an off-ramp, and I understand the reason why you're asking us to sign a 50-year lease from the funding perspective of getting plans moving in the background. I completely understand that. It's just that to the public, they see it as, oh, well, it's a legal binding document at that point, right? So I guess at the end of the day, is everybody, including our own legal and administration, confident that if things do not pan out, that we have the power to just say, okay, this is null and void, and everybody carries on their own way? Because I think that's what the community sees as the risk, is that we're signing first, public engaging somewhat after, but with an off-ramp. But they don't understand those points as clearly as what obviously you do, as what maybe the town does. But I think it's important that the public itself hears this meeting and also has that confidence in it.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. Am I up next, or was Councillor Singh, were you ahead of me?
Oh, sorry, I was
don't
looking at the
wanna
flashing
steal
light. Whoever's tracking
your
there.
thunder. You go ahead,
Let's
Paul.
go to
No,
Councillor
no,
Singh.
sure.
Good evening, and thank you to the Lions Club for joining us tonight. I want to start by recognizing the decade of service, leadership, and volunteerism you have provided to the Cochrane. The Draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan presentation last Monday makes one thing clear. Residents want more community space, amenities, and opportunities to gather. The Lions concept aligns with many of these priorities and offer a partnership that could advance several community needs. Equally important is preserving Cochrane's West End heritage. Legacy Park and the Event Center provide a unique chance to celebrate that heritage while creating new space for community activities. Residents also expect transparency when public land is involved. The direct control approach in future land use process provide clarity on what activities are permitted and a formal way of community to influence outcome. To help council and public better understand the proposal, I have a few questions. Was the Legacy Board intended to be established before signing the agreement or within the 2 to 5 years time frame following the land use change?
Through the chair to Councillor Singh. So the Legacy Board that Trent is referring to is an initiative that the Cochrane Lions took on. It's not outlined in the agreement or in the lease as a requirement. The land use change would go through the public hearing process where the town is the applicant for the land use change. However, the board is something that it was an initiative that the Lions took on themselves, seeing the opportunity to engage the community from the planning perspective.
The next question is, how many major events such as rodeos or large-scale gatherings are typically hosted at Event Center each year? Trent?
At the events, sorry,
Like at the rodeo ground, yeah.
through the chair to Councillor Singh, large-scale events currently are limited because we're limited in size. Planned for next year without advertising so far, I think we have 5. 3 of them, 2 of them are negotiations yet. One of them with our friends from the West, a teepee village is being negotiated. One with Heritage Park, a rodeo possibly with Heritage Park overflow to us. Actually, they reached out to us. They want to utilize our grounds. And of course, our major rodeo, our police rodeo, and then all of the ball tournaments. So well more than 5, but 5 new ones is what I'll say, and those are off the top of my head, Councillor.
Do you have any strategies planned to manage the parking? Because sometimes you hear from the people that that's a very big, I'm sure you must have heard 1,000 times, so that people can be aware beforehand.
Absolutely, and through the chair back to Councillor Singh and a little bit of a dig to some in admin. Yeah, to get the rest of our parking pad back, so then we can utilize the whole parking pad, and absolutely parking plans. And to be fair, and to dig back to the Lions, we have been requested to start putting towards a proper emergency plan, which includes parking after every major event. We're working with town admin to actually create a template for us to easily do that, and that's why Chamber of Commerce is also on our board, as well as the Glenville Community Association, to ensure the fact that we are better neighbors in the future, to address some of the parking concerns we've had in the past. And Chamber is right across the street from us. Some of them really want us to use their parking lot, some of them don't, so we need to make sure that they're on our board to make sure the fact that we actually abide by their wishes.
Thank you.
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. Okay, I had 3 questions that are probably going to get me to my making up my mind tonight. 2 are for administration. One was, it was mentioned that a public hearing costs $12,000. Could we start with that one? Why does a public hearing proposed cost $12,000?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, that's a Lions dollar amount because it was the amount that costs us to bring our third party in that presented in the spring of the overall vision. We have to bring, it was suggested to us, we have to represent what we already presented in the spring, and we'd have to get them back to properly present it, because as you can tell, I'm no presenter. So we would have them back to actually update based on the information we've learned in the last 6 months to a year. It's not gonna be a lot of update because as you guys are well aware, we've just established this board and just starting to reach out to the community to figure out what that vision will look like. But we will have to hire them to come back.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we're up to $150,000 plus in financial consequences if we don't move forward tonight. My other question to the Lions group then is, given that the draft was drafted, what am I trying to say here? The draft lease, pardon me, was drafted on Thursday and shared on Friday. Is your group confident that you can move ahead tonight, given that short notice of actually receiving the legal draft just last week?
Yeah, the way, sorry, through the chair, Councillor Wilson, the way we hope the option is worded is the fact that as long as there's no material change in that lease, which there's not supposed to be, and from what I've read, there is not, we worked hard with both councils through months on the MOU. I call it an MOU that was given to them. And since then, we're just waiting for any final comments from the town admin side and town legal. Our legal is, and he's already read through it. He's got the same concerns he had before, which is a risk concern on our end, and he has those. The same as any lawyer on any contract has some. They're no different. So we haven't found anything different than, or surprising so far, and I believe that was consistent with what the town has stated too. It's very much aligned with what we were expecting. So as long as there's no more material, or no material changes found, we can have no problem signing off.
Thank you for that. I think that sounds reasonable on my side, is coming from the town end, that as long as no reasonable changes are provided, we already have months and months of discussions regarding an MOU, as you call it. I had one question for administration, just to be completely clear, and that's to ask detail on the 2-year exit clause. If I understand, if land use isn't achieved in the first year, the lease is null and void, no strings attached. Is that assumption correct? And that's something that I've been hearing from the Lions group?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, that is correct. There is a number of different benchmarks, and the land use clause within the first 2 years is part of those benchmarks. And the way it's written inside of the lease agreement is that the lease would be null and void if they do not meet that within that timeframe.
Okay, so given those answers, that gives me confidence that there is going to be robust public considerations, given that we're going to have all kinds of time. The next 2 years will be spent in public consultation to see if this is the path we want forward. I think we have a full exit clause that allows us to do exactly what we're talking about tonight, which is that if we're not comfortable, still remove ourselves from the situation, and the Lions as well. For me, that makes me think that I would be prepared to move ahead with this tonight. What really bothers me is option one. The first implication in option one is the Cochrane Lions potentially will not be interested in extending the lease. And I would add as bullet point 2, it's going to cost the Cochrane Lions $160,000 not to move ahead tonight. Those two reasons give me pause and make me think I would move option 2. I can't move option 2, pardon me, procedurally, but I would advocate for option 2, and that's the council direct administration entering a 50-year agreement with the Cochrane Lions Club for the development and operations of Lions Legacy Park as presented. I understand the need for, well, I understand the reasons why we're thinking of doing the public hearing. For me, I think it would have to be limited in aspect, and I believe this is what the intention is, which is simply to have public input on the actual executive summary of the lease proposed, and have talks about exactly, is that what we want the lease to look like? It seems to me like we're going to have that option in the next 2 years. That's my contention. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't be prepared to move ahead tonight, and I think we should go down that option 1. But given all those things, I think option 2 is our better move tonight. Bench, I put it to you that consider the consequences of not moving ahead tonight. Even if the town is paying for this $160,000 in financial disruption we're causing the Lions, I think that is irresponsible, and I think it's also irresponsible to assert that we haven't already had, in my mind, 8 years of public consultation on this. This is something I've talked about in now 3 elections, and I think we have those exit clauses available over the next 2 years to move away from this if it isn't something that is serving the greater public good in general. And so that gives me confidence to move ahead. And I appreciate the Lions for all the different safeguards that have been put in place here so that I can be confident that the public will be advanced and will win. So I'd encourage the bench to rethink this and go with option 2 tonight.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wilson. Before I go around the bench again, I'd like the opportunity to pontificate a bit myself. This is a very difficult decision that we're faced here with. It seems simple on the face of it. Option 1, well, not literal option, but we have an option to sign this tonight, or just kick it down the road for 4 more weeks and then deal with it. The trouble being is that there's very practical problems being presented to our potential partners, the Lions, should we move it back a month. So to kind of rehash the whole situation, the last council gave pretty clear indication they wanted to move forward with this, even though the motion actually said to negotiate a deal, not to sign a deal. I think the intent that was communicated informally and formally in the council meetings and outside of council meetings was that the Lions had every reason to believe that this was something that was going to be happening, and so they moved forward with their planning as such. One of the concerns that I've heard from the public is that it's a 50-year deal, and that's moving so quickly. But I think one of the really clear considerations for me to look at is something Councillor Wilson touched on, is that it's not really a 50-year deal because there's this 2-year off-ramp. In practice, it's really a 2-year deal, and I hope that if we do choose to move forwards with it tonight or next month, I hope the Lions do really appreciate and understand that we hope to have a really fulsome conversation during that 2-year period. So just because there's a decision to go forwards either tonight or next month, please be aware that's not a commitment for 50 years on our end. So framing it as a 2-year conversation, I really think makes it less frightening to move ahead with. The other criticism that I've heard from people who are skeptical of us moving forwards with this is the argument that there hasn't been enough public consultation. As I think was alluded to by Councillor Wilson, this is something that has been discussed in the public realm quite extensively. Of course, we didn't have the detailed agreement for the public to consider, but the notion of it is something that has been out in the public for quite some time. And so to liken it to the YMCA deal, which I myself spoke against due to the lack of public consultation, they aren't the same situation, because with the YMCA deal, that came forwards, and then within 10 days of the public being made aware of it, all of a sudden, boom, there was a question. And at the same time, there wasn't a whole bunch of community groups that were actively supporting the thing at the same time. In contrast, this deal is something that the Lions have been on that space for close to 60 years, doing a very good job. The conversation about keeping the Lions at that space has been something in the political sphere for as long as I've been on council, so that's over 12 years. And this very deal is something that was discussed, presented 9 months ago, and indicated by council, and discussed regularly during the election. So it was something that I myself said very explicitly during the election that I supported. And so it's really quite different than what was put forward with the YMCA deal. So I think that's something worth noting. Further to that point, when in past proposals, there hasn't been this huge rallying cry from the public. However, even in the short time between our last committee of the whole meeting and this meeting, our email inboxes have been filled up with some pretty substantive endorsements. We've received official endorsements from the Chamber of Commerce, from Cochrane Tourism, from Seniors on the Bow, from Wazen Itchinabee Tea, and several other local businesses, as well as many other independent residents. And so that is the type of engagement we'd be hoping to hear in a public forum, but the fact we've received in our email inbox already gives me great confidence that the public is in favor of and engaged in this process. So another thing I want to address, though, on the concerns, one of the concerns that I've heard from people is that if we move forwards with this, there seems to be a false impression that that means we're not going to get a seniors housing project. Because in past years, there has been a bunch of discussion about putting seniors housing on that Fifth Avenue site. as we've shared with the media, and as we're gonna have even more details coming forwards, there are some serious conversations happening with the provincial government regarding seniors housing on other lands. And we met with the minister and we met with the department, and we have every reason to believe that there is going to be some serious movement on seniors housing, just not on that site. And so I really want the public to understand it is not a choice of, do we go with the Lions on this site or do we get seniors housing? We can move forwards with both options. It's not a trade-off. And so what it really comes down to for me, because I think this is such a good project, as I've spoken to at length during the election, during my 12 years on council, because it's such a good project, what it really comes down to for me is why the rush? Of course, I wish this would have been finalized before the election, when there was more clarity around the bench. But the question is, like, why the rush ahead of next month? And so I did have the opportunity to consider that, but I wanted to put it back to Trent again. Can you please explain to us the practical implications on the Cochrane Lions as to why it needs to be done this month, not next month?
I guess through this chair to the chair?
Sure.
To the mayor, yes.
To the mayor. Not a procedural guy. But I am a business owner. I'm a practical person and a volunteer, a serial volunteer, as well as many of the Lions. In our last meeting of the Lions, which would be inappropriate to share, we can say they are not here to come to this and advocate every time. They want to meet with the user groups. Most of the user groups and the concerns, other than people that want to build on the site and take away from our parks, those we'll never agree on. That's okay. We don't have to agree, but I think we have the majority that says, no, we want to keep this as Central Park. So do we, but we also want to include, for example, if we do build a larger building, not to replace the event center, and as I've learned from engineers, et cetera, that building is amazing, it will stay there forever, to extend onto it. We want the Seniors of the Boat in there. We're going to work with them. We want possibly the Rotary. We want any other group that wants it, as well as a citizen that pays taxes. I don't want to increase my fees. So we create a group and a spot that's self-funding after we get it initially built. So it doesn't actually end up like Horse Creek Park, that's an ongoing thing, or Spray Lakes, it's an ongoing thing. And that's where the unique culture of the Lions is. Now to finish answering the question on why the rush, it's not a rush. We're tired of this. This has started 92? When we started one at a time, one lease at a time, one lease at a time. And it was a promise to admin and to council. We have signed our last interim lease when we agreed to extend it from the 6 months, where I believe it was you, Mr. Mayor, that said, we'll get it done before extending it that 6 months. Can't you just get it done? Well, we could have, but there's a bunch of municipal stuff. Plus, to be fair to admin, we set the framework for all future partnerships in this lease. We took the time to redo a lease. That's not a bad lease anymore. We set a framework for all future partnerships, and I believe the presentation after us last week said that that's what we're supposed to do. So hats off to admin and us for all eventually getting along and getting this lease getting done and setting a complete framework for all future partnerships like this, and that's what this is. We talk about a 2-year off-ramp. There's multiple off-ramps actually in the lease. That's the big first one. In between, we have to maintain a whole bunch of things to actually keep administering it. The rush comes from a practical point of view on how much this is going to cost us as the Lions, which is costing the community, whether it comes out of the taxpayers' dollars or come out of our coffers, of not giving back to the community. Because every dollar we get, we get back. We have zero balances. Every dollar we get back. Same as town taxes. Because of a deal that I wish I could get into fully, as well as wasting money and bringing a presentation forward that's going to be half-baked because we haven't met with the groups that have the concerns yet. We can't give them the full answers of what it's going to look like. So if you give us the 2 years with the off-ramp, which was originally designed, we will have it properly done. The rush is actually 2 years. 1 month is ridiculous. We'll never have a proper, all we'll talk about is the off-ramps and explain the fact that, yeah, they're legal and yes, we'll get kicked out if we don't do it.
Okay, so if I could just summarize where I'm at and then pass it on to council to continue deliberating. At some point, we're going to have to take a leap of trust and trust in our partners, the Lions, to turn this over to them. I think that given the number of community leaders who have come forwards to endorse this project and to express their sincere desire that this needs to be done before the end of the year for practical and financial reasons. And because it's not really a 50-year commitment, it's a 2-year essentially trial period, and then we can pull the plug after that. While I hear the concerns about needing additional public feedback before signing this deal, there is going to be more opportunity for public feedback in the 2 years to come. We've also already gotten endorsements from other groups that we'd hope to participate in that public feedback process. And it's just, if I have to weigh what's more important, adhering to the democratic process of feedback and review, or taking the leap of faith to make sure that this deal doesn't fall apart and we don't damage our community group, I think I have to go with signing tonight. And it is a tough decision because I want to be the kind of mayor who urges this group to adhere to good process. I also want to be the kind of mayor that supports what the majority of council supports. But in this one, it's just tough for me, and I'm in favor of moving forward tonight, and it's going to be a leap of faith, and we have to make sure that we work with the Lions to do really good public feedback in the 2-year period before the drop-off. So that's where I'm at. Who would be next? Councillor Singh?
I've heard loud and clear, Cochrane need more spaces, amenities, and community-driven facilities. While the town plays an important role, it cannot meet every need on its own. Partnership with groups help bring this shared vision to life. Our responsibility is to ensure expectation, obligations, and timelines are clear, measurable, and enforceable. And like any responsible agreement, exit clause protect the public interest if the benchmarks are met. This partnership allows us to expand community space while honoring the Western heritage. I have a few questions, Trent, for you. Michelle. Could you elaborate on how these performance benchmarks will guide the long-term lease? For example, how will they inform decision-making or accountability over time?
Yeah, through the chair, I actually might ask Ledge Services if we can switch to the report, because I have the timeline and the benchmarks in there, and it might be just easier to speak to. Is that possible? Sorry. Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna take over here. So on the council, through the chair to Councillor Singh, on the council report, I had provided key provisions of the draft 50-year agreement. And there are, these are the performance benchmarks here. So these are the benchmarks that are built in to the lease, where we need to ensure that all of the user groups, as an example, are being considered. The land use change is being completed within the first 2 years. There's, inside of the agreement, it essentially states that if these are not met, then the lease agreement is terminated. So that's how it's worded. I don't remember your entire question, so I'm not sure if I've answered everything.
Yeah, that's fine there.
Yeah.
And for clarity, let's say, for example, hypothetically, if council gives the go-ahead today, this does not automatically finalize a 50-year lease. Can you confirm that the organization would still need to fulfill all these obligations, including public engagement around the land use redesignation before the lease become fully effective? Is it that provision?
So through the chair to Councillor Singh, if council chooses option 2 to sign, to direct administration to enter into the lease, the negotiated lease agreement, that would direct us to sign the 50-year lease agreement. Inside of the lease agreement are these benchmarks. So we wouldn't be reaching these benchmarks and then signing, we would be signing and then reaching the benchmarks.
Okay, sure, thank you.
Councillor Federico?
Okay, definitely some food for thought sitting around the bench. Mayor Nago, Councillor Wilson, I do agree that it's a 2-year lease, and to be fair, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we were discussing a 2-year extension with the Lions. Like, it wouldn't even go to this level of engagement, right? We just give them an extension and they'd be gone. The 50 years is what scares people, right? I also agree with Trent that in 1 month, what are we trying to solve? And I guess it goes back to at the public hearing, what question are we actually going to be asking the public? Because at the end of the day, I think, is it that you just don't like the lease? Like, I mean, you support the, like, to me, it doesn't give, it's not giving any direction because there's really no plan. So it's like, are they gonna look at like a blank slate and say, well, I just don't agree with you signing a lease? Yet, at the end of the day, we have a 2-year out. So yeah, I kind of agree with the mayor and Council Wilson right now. Just sign it, and then we spend the 2 years in doing the engagement, because I'm worried that in a month's time, all we're doing is pushing this decision down the line another month and causing a lot of probably ill feelings around the bench, and it's really not solving anything. I mean, if the community overall does not like the plan that is presented within the next 2 years, the plan is null and void, and it does not move forward. Asking people to decide whether or not they support a signing of a 50-year lease that doesn't have anything on it, it's just postponing the inevitable, and I think we're all gonna wind up back here again. And I mean, what are we extending it again? Because we have to do more engagement. Pretty soon it'll be 2 years, right? So, and I don't want to do disingenuous engagement either, where, you know what, we're just gonna be asking people's opinion, but really we kind of already know that we're moving forward with it, because that really doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
If I can provide some context through the chair to Councilor Federico, we were anticipating this question potentially, so administration came up with this potential question for the public hearing. But the other point of clarity that I would like to provide is the land use change. We would only be talking about the allowed activities in the land use change. There is no master plan. There's no plan of what is actually happening. That doesn't actually come until year 8 inside of the lease agreement. So just so that you're aware of what we've built out inside of the lease agreement, is the land use change is really just talking about what are the allowed activities on that designated land with direct control. But we wouldn't be providing a master plan of all of the amenities and the future plan. That doesn't come until year 8.
Yeah, fair enough, but I'm pretty sure that there would probably be a good idea of what's going to be happening on the land. It might not be perfectly structured and buildings set up, but I mean, it's not like we're gonna be going 2 years and not know what's happening. It's just gonna be like a blank, weird park space. I think there's gonna be a very clear idea of what the flow is. It's just not gonna be perfected, I'm assuming.
For sure, through the chair to Councilor Federico, I just wanted to provide clarity, just because the public hearing for the land use change would actually be just about the land use change, not necessarily the master plan itself, and getting feedback on that. So just so that council is aware of what that public engagement actually looks like in 2 years.
Trent, did you have something else to comment on that?
Yeah, so just through the chair to, just one comment to Councilor Federico on that, and to back that up. Yeah, there's a 2-year, there's an 8-year, and there's multiple, as you can see, official off-ramps in between, but we can't put a land use designation forward without knowing it's going to be X. So hence why the public engagement is going to be so involved for the next 6 months to figure out what it's going to be, so then we can put that together and what we are able to use it, and then continue on for the 6 years to come back with a financial plan, as well as an actual artistic rendering and everything else of what it's going to be and where we're going to get the funds from, because we've stated we have to go outside to get those.
Okay, over to Councilor McFadden.
Thank you. Question to administration first. The idea is that the municipality would retain direct control on the site, is that correct?
Through the chair to Councilor McFadden, that is correct.
Okay, so that's another level of security for the people of Cochrane. So, okay, my next question then, Trent, is to you. Your community advisory group, sorry, what is it called again?
Through the chair to Councilor McFadden, the Lions Legacy Park Board.
The Lions Legacy
Park Board.
And sorry,
And to be clear, there's only one voting lion on that board.
there's only which?
One voting lion on that board.
Okay, yeah, and I was gonna ask you to refresh me on the membership. So it's a Lion member,
The
it's,
membership is still being 100% finalized.
Right.
Because again, we're finishing the lease and doing this at the same time.
yep,
So off the top of my head, we have myself as chair, non-voting. We have our president's seat, which sits on all boards and committees underneath the Lions. That's the only Lion. We have Kendall waiting. He's an avid volunteer and a SEAL volunteer, we all know, and also our legal counsel, so we don't go down a bad track.
Yep.
We have the Glenbow Community Association representative of Brian Winter. We have, who am I forgetting already? We have town administration, sorry, Ms. Ambrose. So we wanted the town and us to, and this is the whole point of this is a really cool fact, is there's no more he said, she said. That board sits right with town, lockstep. So if you're building a community rink across the street, we don't want to be building one on our side. And that's actually was written as the MOU to make sure we're in lockstep. That's one of our actual requirements. And then the Chamber of Commerce was recently suggested that we add, because I forgot them in the first round, to be honest. And we've added that, and that's Jen, underneath Dwayne's guidance, will be on that board. Who else? Oh, ball, of course. Michelle is representing all the ball clubs, but two of us also play on the other committees and keep Christina apprised on the mix side. So all of the existing stakeholders are there. Then we have two additional positions that feed us, and that is the community liaison position. And that represents, I'll make up a number, 40 groups to present to us all the time, to give us feedback into what we have to do to help that community. And that's gonna be the keyest position, as well as, what's the word, keyest? As well as the Indigenous or Native coordinator on that board, advising us to make sure the fact that we're aligned with our friends. So,
And so in the creation of this board, like your list isn't finalized, so if we asked for a council rep to be on there, open to that option, I'm
Absolutely.
sure, right?
I don't get to vote on
You
the
don't
board.
get to vote.
And we don't have a written constitution yet, although we're getting there.
Okay.
But the point is I would advocate for that.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on who votes who tonight, but yep.
Right? And tourism. Have you reached out to tourism?
Tourism has unofficially asked us for a position. I couldn't bring it up tonight because we haven't brought it to the next board meeting. Our next board meeting, I think, is December 18th. And that will be a topic on that. And then, yeah, if it makes sense and everyone thinks it makes sense, I have no, yeah. And then Seniors of the Bow was, of course, the other big one because they were mentioned in the tri-site, so they're the one that comes into site. And we expect them to be, because we couldn't let Seniors of the Bow come in without letting, we'll say, the BMX club and every other club in. So, but the whole point is to bring them in through the community liaison position right away because in my view, they're a major stakeholder there.
Okay. So as the mayor mentioned, this, and I think everybody else has mentioned, this has been a very difficult conversation, like, for me. And because I'm bringing with it a couple of different values. One of which I've always said is, in serving Cochrane, I really believe council makes the best decisions when we listen to the community. So that's one of my values. The other one is making sure I keep my commitments. And so, and also, fiducial duties, making sure we're following, like, minimizing our legal risk, spending our financial commitments wisely, those type of things. So I find myself in a bind because it was my expectation in March that this agreement would come and there would be space for public engagement to talk about the philosophies of that. So I found myself in a bind between my values. And so then we have some truths as well. The Lions have a long history of community service, making a difference, and being valuable partners. And another truth is, one way or the other, the Lions and the town, we're going to be partners, next month. Nobody's going anywhere. We're going to keep finding a way to work together. And another truth is we have a high demand and need in our community to solve our recreation and cultural needs. And that includes our Western heritage, our rodeos, everything. So we have a high demand for that. Baseball, curling, we heard that today, soccer. And so financially, the truth is we don't have an infinite amount of grants or taxpayer dollars to make this happen. So we're going to have to get innovative and creative and work with community partners to make it happen. So that's the truth is it's a synergy that needs to happen. And so then I asked myself as an advocate for public engagement, would this then be disingenuous, as you brought up, to be, hey, let's stall the process for a month to do greater engagement, when what is the question going to be? Is the question actually a 50-year lease? Or is it about what is happening on the site? And so I think where I'm landing on this is to be able to move ahead, to be good partners. I think we have to move in this direction. And my expectations with that is that the community engagement, and as it's been identified, and what makes this unique, is all of the off-ramps that have been written in there. So as much as in an ideal world, we had another month to sort this out, so I could spend, you know, the legal agreement came in on Friday, so we could make sure that we've checked all those dots. That would be the ideal world. We've set this up bass-ackward. But at the end of the day, we need to work together. I think the creativity, your commitment to public engagement, and I can see there's going to be extensive public engagement before each off-ramp, each timeline of commitment. So, yeah, so I came into this, you know, confident that I would know how I would respond, because I was going to stick to my values. We've had great conversations around the table tonight, and I think that I can still balance off that, you know, keeping of my commitments and the commitment of making the best decisions for Cochrane by listening to the community, because we can build it in, and because you've gotten creative in such great ways, like the Legacy Board and adding membership there. So this hasn't been a clear, simple, straightforward one, but at the end of the day, it does have my support tonight. So I get to vote against my own motion.
Procedurally, I believe you can rescind your motion. Withdraw. Would you like to withdraw your motion, Councillor McFadden? Or did you want to continue to debate?
Is there anything, if I rescind that, will it change your comments? Nope. Okay.
While you figure that out, why don't we go over to Councillor McDonald?
I've been struggling through this conversation for days now to figure out what about this makes me uncomfortable. And what I landed on coming into tonight was, and I'll be the third to use disingenuous, these lease negotiations have been going on for some time, and now we're going to go to the public and say, hey, should we entertain a lease negotiation, or should we entertain the concept of a 50-year lease with the Lions? Those two things happening in that order has made me uncomfortable because it feels disingenuous. I watched, in preparation for this, I watched footage from February 3rd, March 17th, March 24th. And I've come into this feeling like this topic has been in front of our community for a healthy amount of time. I believe the previous council asked appropriate questions. I believe there was robust conversation about public engagement. Previous council voted unanimously, knowing that public engagement would be a part of the early years of this lease. I also want to say that I understand the desire to have some reparation from the SLS moment in Cochrane's history, but I respectfully suggest that this is not the same situation. In addition to Mayor Nagel's comments, in this situation, we're being asked to renew and renegotiate something that's been very, very successful and mutually beneficial. To me, this is a continuation of an existing relationship that now has an ambitious vision that really benefits all of Cochrane. Ultimately, what I'm saying is, I think we're too far down this road to now press pause and go back to a question that if we were ever going to ask it, it needed to be earlier in 2025. Ultimately, where I land in my concerns tonight is whether or not that lease, you know, we've only just seen it for a couple of business days. If that lease is in a position where we can get it to where we need it to be, then I'm ready to move forward.
All right. Why don't we go to Councillor McFadden regarding your motion that is currently on the floor?
Sure. So I guess my motion is to withdraw my initial motion and to advance option 2, which is to direct administration to enter into a 50-year agreement with the Cochrane Lions Club for the development and operation of the Lions Legacy Park as presented. Is that accurate?
Councillor Wilson?
Thank you. As it seems that we're heading towards a likely vote here, I just wanted to hit on two points that I wish I had hit on my initial comments. They were brought up after me, and thank you for bringing them up, group. One is that this is not a trade-off between the Lions and seniors housing. I think the whole table would be in agreement that it would be a different conversation if that were true. It's not true. We have a plan for seniors housing ongoing, and I think that has broad support amongst this group. That is not what is being decided on tonight. And then the other point that has been made already, in actual reality, it's not a 50-year decision we're making tonight. It's a 2-year initial agreement expiring December 31st, 2027. The next 2 years will involve the robust continued public consultation we all desire. And so I'm comfortable to move forward, and I guess I've already made my other points before as we head into the vote, but I appreciate the motion on the floor right now.
All right, excellent. So to sum it all up for myself, everybody on council has said a lot of great things. I appreciate all of the tireless efforts of the Lions and everybody who's joined us this evening to show your support one way or another. I know where I want this to go eventually, and so to me, tonight's question was about, do we need to decide it tonight, or do we need to wait a month? And given all the information available and the financial implications for the Lions, the practical implications, I think it is important that we move forwards tonight. And so yeah, that's what I'll be avoiding. And last comment, I would like to say that thank you, council, for coming up here. Everybody, it feels like everyone's had a very open mind and truly been willing to consider and discuss all of the merits of everybody's points, and that is refreshing to see up here. So thank you very much. I shall call the question. Oh wait, sorry, Councillor, say.
I also want to thank the resident who has submitted their questions, concerns, and support. Your engagement shows just how important this conversation is to our community. So just wanted to make sure, shout out to all the people who have emailed us. Yes, thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Perfect. Now we will take that bio. Are we live and good to resume our meeting? Okay, let's get back to the meeting. Next up, an exciting agenda item, telecommunications tower, type A, better Wi-Fi.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Rob Auclair, and I am the Manager of Planning Services. And I'm here to present a request for a letter of concurrence for a telecom tower at 43080 Bow Valley Trail, which was originally presented last week at the Committee of the Whole. The proposed telecom tower is located on Ag Society lands. The closest neighborhood is Heritage Hills and West Hawk at the north boundary of town. This is the site plan that's attached to your report. It outlines the specific location in red here of the tower itself on the northern portion of the parcel, and the proposed access, which is just to the south and uses existing access points and an existing internal gravel road that will be extended to the proposed tower. This is another view of the proposed tower from the southeast corner of the site, looking towards the RV storage and Baptist Seminary. The location was chosen to provide required coverage for emergency and drop calls for this area of town and meets the setbacks for this type of tower to existing residential lands. This proposal was changed to reflect the feedback from engagement. The original proposal was for a 60-meter lattice tower and was changed to a 45-meter monopole style tower, which is a preferred style within the policy, and the lower height is in response to concerns from JL Developments, who is the developer for the neighborhood of West Hawk. This is a photo simulation of the view of the constructed tower facing south with the photo taken from Township Road 262. This is a photo simulation of the view of the constructed tower facing north with the photo taken from the existing south access. This application was evaluated alongside Envision Cochrane 2050, the 2022 to 2025 strategic plan, the Cochrane Sustainability Plan, as well as the Telecommunication Antenna Structures Decision Framework. This proposal aligns with all relevant municipal policies. Public notification and engagement is required for this type of telecommunication tower in the policy. This one, of course, is for a type A application. After multiple rounds of discussions and considerations of other sites dating back all the way to 2022, the Ag Society site was chosen this year. Notifications of this project and invitation to the open house was sent out on May of this year. Public open house was held in June, which kicked off the response period where the applicant responded to emails and held meetings with those concerned. And the application was received in August and then adjusted in response to feedback in October and is before you this evening. This application and Cochrane's policy does not fall within the municipality's approving authorities, statutory planning, or responsibilities outlined in the Municipal Government Act. The Federal Minister of Innovation and Science and Economic Development Canada, formerly Industry Canada, is the approving authority for the development and operation of telecommunication towers. Cochrane's role in this process is to either issue a letter of concurrence or a letter of non-concurrence. The policy Cochrane adopted established procedural standards that will allow the town of Cochrane to effectively participate and influence the placement of telecommunication structures proposed within the town limits, as well as methods of communication to residents and help to decide which letter to use. Either way, the applicant will include Cochrane's letter in their federal application for approval. It should be noted, however, that issuing a letter of non-concurrence does not prevent ISED Canada from approving this application. So the recommendation before you is that council direct administration to issue a letter of concurrence for the proposed type A telecommunication tower located at 43080 Bow Valley Trail. Thank you, and that concludes my presentation. I am joined by Mark Krasinski, Director of Community Growth, to answer any questions you may have.
All right, Counselor Federico.
I will make the motion that council direct administration to issue a letter of concurrence for the proposed type A telecommunication tower located at 43080 Bow Valley Trail. I just have one question. The tower itself is going to be gray in color, I believe I read?
Correct. So it meets the requirements of the policy, sorry, through the chair to Councillor Federico. It does meet the requirements for the policy. I believe it is white, though, is the design of the tower. It was going to be gray. Sorry, other way around? I apologize. Sorry, it was going to be white, but through the communication engagement with the developer and the residents, it will be gray. I apologize for that.
Oh, no worries. I mean, I realize that people don't want to necessarily have this in their backyard or look and have it obstruct, you know, their sight lines, but at the end of the day, we all rely on telecommunications to do our jobs every single day, and I think that I can't see not supporting it, and if we didn't, it still could get voted through or decided on anyways without our support, so I would just rather go forward and give it my thumbs up.
Not seeing other comments. Something I'd add is I think it's nice that this is being proposed in a largely unbuilt portion of the town. These things obviously cause more of a disturbance when they're erected in someone's backyard of a long-standing established community. Of course, we've got the developer commenting they didn't want to build it. Totally understand, but we do need internet. Any further comments? Nope. Call the question. All in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Sorry, was there a motion? Councilor Federico, you moved, right? Okay. Yeah, see? We've got it under control. All right. The encore event of tonight's council meeting.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Tonight, administration is presenting the final amended 2026 budget for your approval. Again, want to thank you for your collaboration throughout this process, and certainly I want to recognize our team and the work, many hands that went into bringing this forward this evening. This budget reflects the direction that Council provided through deliberations, incorporates what we heard from residents, and positions Cochrane's for another year of stable, responsible service delivery. Our goal this evening is to confirm the changes Council requested, demonstrate how they strengthened our fiscal position, and seek your support to move forward. You've seen this slide a few times. We're at the end of the journey. We've been through several days of detailed discussions on November 16th, 17th, 26th, and December 1st. And tonight, we pull all that work together. As always, the budget process is structured, transparent, and grounded in financial discipline. We begin with service pressures and cost requirements, incorporate public input, review options with council, and refine the budget through the deliberation process. By the time the budget reaches this stage, it reflects the shared commitment, aligning resources to the priorities council has established while maintaining affordability for our residents. You're familiar with this slide. You've seen it a couple times. This is where we started this cycle. We face familiar but increasing pressures, growth-driven demand for services, inflation across all operating areas, and ongoing infrastructure needs. Council asked administration to refine the initial budget, reduce impacts where possible, and maintain the integrity of service delivery. The amended budget before you reflects that direction. It is lean, responsive, and built to ensure the town can build or can continue to meet community expectations safely and reliably. Another slide that you've seen at every edition that council made addressed a real pressure, a risk, or a priority. Our job was to incorporate those in the budget in a way that the community can depend on. So again, you will see the parks position, the capital planning resource, as well as the risk mitigation compliance resource, as well as the reserves, which led to the 5.12. However, once council's additions were included, administration undertook a review to find reductions that would not impact service levels. We were able to identify a series of sustainable efficiencies and adjustments that lowered the overall impact to just over 1%. These reductions allow us to incorporate council's direction while maintaining stability. So ultimately, we get to the 4.07% proposal for the increase. In terms of the rate-supported budgets, they continue to be a strength of Cochrane. Utilities continue to operate at a fully cost recovery basis, no tax subsidy, no cross-funding, no impact on the tax-supported budgets. There are no amendments from council deliberations. This approach reinforces long-term system reliability, appropriate life cycle funding, and financial independence from the operating budget. Many municipalities struggle in this area. However, Cochrane continues to demonstrate strong stewardship. I think you're all familiar with the adjusted capital projects, the wayfinding installation, the cost of $100,000 for 2026 only. And then there was a request for the additional Jim Uffelman off-leash fencing at Jim Uffelman off-leash dog park. The cost is $65,000, and funding from the new Parks and Recreation Reserve. So we have addressed those areas in the capital budget. In terms of service fees, this provides a consistent, transparent update to the town's user fee structure across all departments. The adjustments balance inflationary pressures, service delivery costs, market comparisons, and community accessibility. Several fee areas remain unchanged to support affordability and stability, while others receive targeted updates to reflect actual workload and modernize offerings and improve cost recovery. In terms of the actual cost to residents, this is something that you've seen before, but the total monthly increase is the $15.96, and then of course the annual cost, which you had previously seen, is $191.48. One of the final items that I wanted to share before I turn it over to Mr. Aleem to finish this out is we had presented the annual tax property bill as an example. We had talked about putting this within the tax bill. However, after further reflection and based on some of the input from council, we have decided that it would be best if we added this receipt into the citizen operating budget book that has been prepared. As you will see, there's also a portion at the bottom which indicates both the municipal, provincial, and Rocky View Foundation funding and how it's all broken out. So that is one change that I wanted to certainly bring to your attention. And then if you do not have any questions on the first part of the budget, I'd like to give Mr. Aleem an opportunity to just close things out, giving you sort of a 3-year financial plan and then giving the final recommendations for you.
Council, do you have any questions before we turn it over to Director Aleem? No, please continue.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to be touching base on the 3-year financial plan. I believe I presented this to Council during deliberations. As per Section 2831 of the MGA, municipality is required to submit a 3-year financial plan, which includes the current year on the budget, which is 2026, plus the 2 additional years, 27 and 2028. And the purpose of the 3-year financial plan is basically to get council thinking about forward thinking. In other words, building awareness and the decisions that's made for this budget, how it affects future years. The assumptions that we use to create the 27-28 is based on the same assumptions that we use for the 2026 budget, meaning we use 2% inflation. We assume the grants for local government fiscal framework, as well as the police, the RCMP. We assume that those are kept at the 2026 level. So based on that information, here's the revised 3-year financial plan. So again, 2026 is highlighted because 2026 is the only year council is approving. This is not a multi-year budget. So for 2026, you can see it's 0 at the bottom. That's because the $1.6 million, the revenue requirement, is now built into the property tax revenue. And because that now is incorporated in the 2026 budget, that is the starting point for 2027, 2028. So once you roll into the increase for 2026, it shows what the effect would be for 2027, 2028 in terms of the surplus and deficit. So for 2027, the deficit would be $916,240, which equates to 2.28% tax rate increase. And for 2028, the surplus or deficit for that year will be $1.5 million, which equates to a 3.65% increase. The increase, again, is based on 1% for 2026, which was $401,000. So for
Mr.
tonight-
Lean, before you proceed, just want to give council a moment with that because we felt it was important to not only talk about 2026, but give you a look ahead based on the work that we've done. And that's always an important forecast for the future. Again, it is simply a forecast. And then there would be opportunities as you work and we all work together in 27 and 28 to make amendments on that.
Councilor McFadden?
Yeah, thank you for the preview, much appreciated. And you very clearly articulated this is not a multi-year budget, but I do know that other like municipalities have moved to multi-year budgets and multi-year strategic plans. Any preliminary thoughts on whether Cochrane should look at moving in that direction?
The mayor to Councilor McFadden, absolutely, it's something that I will be bringing back to council in the future in terms of a multi-year budget. That is on the horizon.
Okay, great. That makes me happy. And the Parks and Recreation Reserve is built into the forecast for next year and the following?
It is.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Please carry on.
And so for tonight, Mayor and Council, there are 4 recommendations. One is that Council approve the consolidated 2026 operating budget as amended. 2, that Council approve the consolidated 2026 capital budget as amended. 3, that Council approve the 2026 service fees as proposed. And 4, that Council direct administration to establish the Parks and Recreation Reserve. And that concludes the presentation for tonight.
Councilor Federico?
I have no questions, but Mr. Leem, I will be approving option 1, which is probably one of the biggest things that I could give you. Congratulations, because it's been a long time since I voted in favor of a budget. Do you need me to make these separately or?
Separately, please.
Okay. I just wanted to, again, reiterate, I think I've said it at every meeting, that it's been a process, but it's been a good process. And I think that the projection of looking ahead, I hope people don't just consider that's where we're going to have to stop. Because as council, I think we're all aware that we have some very hard decisions that are going to be coming up, some big decisions that are coming up, and how do we support growth and what we have going on in our community with limited financial resources. And so I just want people to be prepared that chances are it's not probably going to remain those numbers either, because like I brought up, we have many, many things that we need in our community, and we need to be planning for the growth in the future. And so I just wanted to say that before I go ahead forward. So I will start with the first one, that council approved the consolidated 2026 operating budget as amended.
All right, who'd like to make a comment? Questions? Councilor Wilson?
Thank you. I've got a few things. I did plan on voting in favor of this, but I did have a few issues I brought up during committee of the whole. One was I'm still not comfortable with our accessory suite application charge of $500. We did bring it up during budget time. Is it possible to approve this budget and have that circled back to council for review to go down to $250? I think we're charging too much for our basement suites, and it's just going to cause people not to report them.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, I think our team is looking at a comprehensive review of all the planning fees in 2026. So certainly we feel that that's something that can be addressed for the interim. It would remain as the current proposal, though.
Okay, when can we expect that back? That seems reasonable.
I would need to, it would certainly be in advance of next year's, or part of next year's budget, but I can confirm those details and get back to you.
Okay, thank you. I was also looking for the fire services percentage of operational budget as well as total cost in comparison to like municipalities. Again, this isn't something I plan to hold up budget over, but is there going to be an opportunity upcoming over the next 365 to get that answer in front of us?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, that information was shared with council on Friday from Ms.
sorry.
Dangerfield.
Okay.
So
My apologies for missing. I'll go back and check that out. I simply flag it as I look at our receipt of municipal taxes in front of us right now. And when I look at fire services, it's at 15% and growing year over year. And this isn't me picking on fire services. They're obviously very important to our municipality. I just want to know how that's growing in comparison to like municipalities. And if is that, I assume it's a trend across the board, but I'd just like to know where we sit by comparison. I don't know how else to judge it other than to do it that way. So thank you for sending that email out, and my apologies for missing it. Also in that email, then I'll ask fire services again, their training budget portion, was that also in the email, and how that could affect our medical
that is
outcomes?
included in the email. That's the first item, and then goes into the regional comparison.
I'll stop
I don't
taking up
have it
airtime.
right off the top of my
Okay,
head.
thank you
though.
for it. And then the final one, this excellent document in front of us, the receipt from municipal taxes, I just heard that can't go into tax forms. That'll just be something as part of our community handbook, or where did that fall?
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, following some internal discussion with our team, we understand the desire to include this. We felt it would be in the, the public budget document would probably be the best place. What we had discussed is, and sort of the rationale is that would create some confusion for residents as they get their tax bill and then have a secondary example. That was our original, through the deliberations that we talked to you about. And we felt, is this going to create some additional confusion? So again, if council has some alternative direction that you wish to provide, but we've just felt that this was a better option to include it in the public-facing budget book as a first step, and then build on it based on our conversation.
Okay, thank you for the clarity on that. It was brought up by Councillor McFadden, I believe, pointing out that Okotoks does something like this. I thought it was pretty clever. If it's easy to do, I would be in support of including it with our tax assessments, but it's up to the table what you think about that. I'm not super wedded to it. I'll let anyone else speak to that if you want on the receipt of municipal taxes topic. On the overall budget topic, I also will vote in favor of it. I came into budget deliberations with a Edmonton municipal inflation rate of 2.7 in mind. 2.7 plus the 1% that we added to our reserves for parks and recreation got it up to 3.7 in my mind, and 3.7 is close enough to our 4.07, pardon me, that we got to, that I'm comfortable to move ahead with it tonight. I did just want to highlight and point out, for me, this is a 3.07 budget with a 1% contribution to a reserve fund, not a 4% budget as we're advertising it, but pleased with the process and happy to where we got to, and I will join the yes vote tonight.
Okay, I'll jump in. Our comms department asked me to draft up a statement to issue, assuming all you lovely folks vote in favor of this, and I thought I'd share that statement with the group here. Your newly elected council and I have passed a budget that empowers the town of Cochrane to deliver on the ambitious promises we made during the recent municipal election. I'm proud of the thought and collaborative approach our council and senior staff members have taken in its first months working together. We've spent a great deal of time listening to residents, understanding the pressures facing our community, and working through the budgetary numbers. What we heard, and what we all agree on, is that Cochrane needs to take action to get ahead of the challenges and opportunities presented by our community's ongoing growth. One of the core themes of the 2025 municipal election was that our municipal government needs to be doing more to plan for Cochrane's ongoing growth. And this budget is the first real step towards catching up. I personally feel strongly that we were not elected to maintain the status quo in our town's operations. Instead of looking to hold the organization steady or even cut services and taxes, your council and I have made a strategic decision to invest in planning for our future. In addition to inflationary adjustments to maintain past service levels, the 2026 budget lays out the framework required to get caught up on our infrastructure, facilities, and community services. For example, traffic. Residents continually express that they want the government to improve our traffic flows in town. Funding for a transportation master plan in this budget is the first step to planning much-needed municipal traffic infrastructure so we can keep vehicles moving. Recreation. Families and sports groups have expressed an imminent need for additional ice surfaces and sports fields. That need has been reinforced by our data-based findings in our recent draft Parks and Recreation Master Plan. To address the community's recreation needs, this budget is creating a new strategic Parks and Recreation Reserve Fund, which we'll use to invest in our community's sports facilities such as ice surfaces, ball diamonds, and soccer fields. Infrastructure planning. While Cochrane continues to experience near record growth, our municipal government needs additional resources to keep pace with our infrastructure needs. The addition of a new project manager in our planning and engineering department is going to help accelerate our capital and financial planning so we can get caught up on Cochrane's growth pressures. Parks and open spaces. Homeowners across a number of communities have shared concerns that some of our parks and green spaces need to be managed better. To help maintain Cochrane's natural beauty, we're adding additional seasonal parks maintenance staff and an additional environmental regulation compliance coordinator, title TBD, and much more. But even with all that being said, it's important to note that in addition to responding to some of the community's most pressing concerns, Council has still taken steps to ensure that this budget is maintaining financial responsibility. We have worked diligently with our administration to adjust Cochrane's capital spending to defer some unessential items and avoid reaching our municipal debt limit as was projected in last year's budget. We have a lot of important work to do over the next 4 years, and the budget we have set for 2026 is going to ensure we are able to fulfill the promises that the people of Cochrane elected us to take action on. Thank you everyone who took the time to participate in our engagement processes, share input, and stay informed. Your voices helped guide our decisions and ensure we remain focused on what matters most to our community. Thank you, Morgan Nagel, Mayor, Town of Cochrane. That is my statement. Open to feedback if you do or do not like it. Okay, any further conversation before we, Councilor McDonald?
I liked your statement a lot. I think it's great. I'm really proud of this budget process, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity to work with admin the way we did. As a new councillor, it was more delightful than I would have expected budget deliberations to be. And I just want to say to the bench, I'm particularly proud of us adding the permanent environmental compliance position. And that idea came forward from a member of the public. And then we all agreed that this position is critical to protect what we love most about Cochrane. So I think that's a really great example of a passionate resident bringing forward a really terrific idea that we all agreed with. So super proud of that. And thanks everybody.
Councilor McFadden?
Yeah, I just have a few words here. One of the leadership quotes that I've been paying attention to a lot lately is culture trumps strategy, or culture eats strategy for breakfast. And the point of it is, of course, is you can't get anything done unless you've got a strong team, everybody's in a culture that's working together and collaboratively. And so I really feel certainly this first month and a bit and this budget process managed to do both. I felt this was a great reset on culture. It was a great opportunity. I really enjoyed working both with my council colleagues and with administration. I felt we were able to have collaborative, open conversations and push back at each other and find new ways to win. So I really appreciate the culture that we're creating here and that I saw exemplified during the budget process. And I also really am quite proud of the budget. I think everybody was able to advocate in different spaces for it. And I think we really delivered a budget that does speak to the strategy that we need in our community. So yeah, culture trumps strategy, but in this budget process, I think we managed both. So thank you for everybody who made that possible. Admin as well, I appreciate all your hard work.
Councilor Singh?
As we move to approve this year's budget, I want to thank all the residents who participated through surveys, deliberation, or reaching out directly. Your input shaped our discussions. I also want to acknowledge our administrative staff and fellow councillors. Working together as residents asked us during the election ensures our decisions are responsible and cost-effective. My focus has been on two key priorities: improving how we work internally and strengthening long-term financial sustainability. While the new FTE is being added, we need to coordinate effectively, reduce duplication, and operate more more efficiently, not to cut services, but to make them stronger with the resources we already have. To support transparency and long-term planning, I will bring a notice of motion in January to establish a Finance or Corporate Advisory Committee. This committee will include council, administration, and committee members with relevant expertise, would meet quarterly to provide strategic advice, improve communication, and give residents a meaningful voice in financial decisions. This is about listening and bring a culture of openness around public funds. With that commitment, I will support the 4.0% budget. This budget investment is essential. Invest in essential frontline services like fire services, risk mitigation, and capital projects, while also dedicating around $400,000 to park and recreation reserves. Our council remain committed to listening, working closely with administration, and making thoughtful, community-focused decisions to move Cochrane forward. Thank you.
All right. Your light is still red there. Councillor Federico, did you have anything else?
Oh, no.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, I'll call the question. All in favor of the first item? Carried unanimously. And I believe we need 3 more motions for each of those items. Councillor Federico.
I will move that council approve the consolidated 2026 capital budget as amended.
Conversation? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Next.
That council approve the 2026 service fees as proposed.
Conversation? Seeing none. Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously.
You can.
All right. Last but not least, Councillor McFadden.
Thank you, colleagues, for that. I would like to move that council direct administration to establish the Parks and Recreation Reserve.
Conversation, I do have a comment here. I just think this is a really important step to move forwards with. We all know about the needs of the community, and I think it's really great that we're providing some clarity on why we're investing in our reserves, because I know there were some questions early on in the budget deliberation process, so glad we landed here. Anything else? Call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you. And again, administration, thank you for all your hard work on the budget. I know many of you worked tirelessly, did many late nights, answering all of our questions and participating in the process. Thank you.
We're sending in our closer, Mr. Tooth.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll begin with the Water Utility Bylaw Amendment, which reflects the 2026 rates required to support the proposed utility budget. This rate reflects the funding necessary to deliver the water services and renewal programs that were presented during budget deliberations. Approval of this rate through second and third reading will finalize the water portion of the 2026 utilities budget. This comparison shows that even with the proposed 2026 adjustment, Cochrane's water rates remain very competitive in the region. It reinforces that the rate before council is both reasonable and aligned with surrounding municipalities. With that, administration recommends the council give second and third reading to Water Utility Bylaw Amendment 18, 2025. Approval of this bylaw will complete council's final approval of the 2026 water budget.
All right. Councillor Wilson.
I'd move the recommended option, the council give second and third reading to Water Utility Bylaw Amendment 18, 2025, and posit a terrifying question to Mr. Tooth, a philosophical one. We had an email from a resident that I thought had a good question, which is, why do we break things into a base rate and then a consumptive rate after that? Why isn't it entirely consumptive? And I had a guess that it's probably the base rate goes to pay for the basic infrastructure while the consumptive rate goes for expansion. But I thought I'd posit it to you because I don't know the answer to it.
Through the chair to Councillor Wilson, you hit it right on the head.
Okay.
For the most part, what we try to do is build those fixed charges, the infrastructure charges, into the base rate, and the variable charges, whether it be utility rates or unpredictable things, we build that into the variable rate. But we want to, as part of we go through the utility rate review process, try to keep the variable rate as more of the charge, because that gives our customers more of an opportunity to save, and it also promotes conservation.
And I suppose the short answer to that would be if that resident were to leave town for the majority of the year, they'd still be paying a base rate, but the reason for that is we're still incurring costs from that resident even though they're not at home. Is that basically the breakdown? Did I nail it?
That's absolutely accurate. The water lines don't leave the ground and the pumps still exist. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so motion on the floor for clarity is just second motion, or second reading. I'll call the question. All in favor? Second reading is carried unanimously. Need a motion for third.
The third reading of same bylaw amendment.
All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much.
All right, moving on to our sanitary sewer bylaw, which contains the rates for our wastewater and stormwater utilities. These proposed rates reflect the operational and capital requirements presented during deliberations and are necessary to support the 2026 utility budget. Approval through second and third reading finalizes council's approval of these portions of the budget. Regionally, Cochrane's wastewater rate continues to fall within the competitive range. This confirms the proposed 2026 rate is appropriate and consistent with neighboring communities. Stormwater rates vary widely across the region, but Cochrane remains on the lower end of the scale. This reinforces that the proposed rate is financially responsible while supporting required system maintenance and upgrades. Administration recommends the council give second and third reading to Sanitary Sewer Bylaw Amendment 19-2025. This will finalize the wastewater and stormwater components of the 2026 utilities budget.
All right, council. Councillor Singh.
I'll make a motion that council give a second and third reading to sanitary sewerage bylaw amendment 19-2025.
Conversation?
Oh,
It's two motions again.
Oh, two motions.
By the way, so this one's second reading.
second reading, sorry.
Yep. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. Next up. Keep on going.
That council give the third reading to sanitary sewer bylaw amendment 19-2025.
Conversation? Seeing none. Question? All in favor? Carried.
All right. Finally, I'll move on to the Waste Management Bylaw Amendment, which contains the rates for solid waste collection and the Eco Center. As council will recall, no rate increases are proposed for solid waste or the Eco Center in 2026. Apparently I have my old notes here. Oh, no, it's on the next slide. Apologies. Second and third reading will finalize the 2026 budget for these two utilities. This comparison shows that Cochrane's waste and recycling rates remain competitive across the region. The stability of these rates, which have not increased for 3 years, reflect the efficiencies achieved through the EPR transition and our diversion programming. Administration recommends that council give second and third reading to Waste Management Bylaw Amendment 20-2025. Approval of this bylaw completes council's approval of the 2026 solid waste and eco center budgets. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time this evening.
All right, council, one more exciting opportunity to get your name on the minutes. Councillor McDonald.
That's what I'm here for. I motion the recommended option to give second reading to Waste Management Bylaw Amendment 2025.
Seeing no conversation, I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. Need third reading?
I motion for third reading of Waste Management Bylaw Amendment 2025. Holy smokes, that is hard to get out.
It's a mouthful.
Nailed it. See no conversation, all in favor? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. A budget well done. Thank you. That brings us to the notices of motion portion of our agenda. I see we have none. I'll just add in here that I do believe we're going to be having a conversation in the new year about refreshing the procedures around notices of motion, but that's not tonight. Next up is my mayor's report. And speaking to that, I am working on a major notice of motion, which I intend to seek further feedback from every single one of you, as well as our administration, before I bring it forwards. And so I just wanted to use my mayor's report tonight to highlight where the conversation is at right now. And so here's what I would like, here's what I intend to bring forwards in the new year, hopefully at the next council meeting. And I would greatly value your advice and input prior to doing so. And please bear in mind that this motion is intended to be the beginning of a much larger conversation, not necessarily to establish some firm policies, at least to begin with. And I intended to bring a prop, our strategic planning document, but I left it up in my office. And just for the new faces at the table, we have a strategic document. I thought these ideas here might be something that would be part of a broader renewal of that document. So anyways, the background information as it currently stands, Cochrane has undergone sustained and substantial population growth over recent decades, consistently outpacing the growth experienced by most municipalities across Canada. This rapid expansion has created significant positive opportunities for economic development, while also introducing several pressures related to infrastructure, transportation, environmental stewardship, municipal service delivery, and other challenges. Cochrane currently operates with only a loosely defined growth assumption. The municipal government's long-term plans and budgets often reference an anticipated annual population increase of roughly 4%. However, despite the critical importance growth plays in all areas of our community, this figure is just an expected observation, not a strategic direction chosen through formal policy process, strategic evaluation, or community input. Moreover, there have been many years where Cochrane's real growth has materially varied from expectations, which has led to a number of planning challenges for our local government, community organizations, and businesses who need to plan around growth expectations. Providing a stable growth target in our community could assist all public and private stakeholders who are planning for their future. Determining what constitutes a sustainable growth rate for Cochrane may require robust analysis and consultation. Financial planning, policy research, demographic modeling, public engagement, and collaboration with industry partners may be necessary to identify an appropriate long-term sustainable growth target. Once a specific target or desired range is set, even more work may be required to evaluate and develop policy instruments capable of guiding actual growth patterns toward that objective. However, before undertaking this significant effort, Council should first decide whether establishing a growth target and associated implementation tools is a priority for our community. Accordingly, the purpose of this motion is not to set a specific growth target or propose any specific policy tools to pursue that target. Instead, the purpose of this motion is to ask, is defining and pursuing a sustainable growth target a strategic objective Council wishes to pursue further this term? And the motion, the draft motion as it currently reads, which again, open to feedback on all the background information and this motion, the motion currently reads that administration provide Council with options for establishing a high-level strategic goal within Cochrane's strategic plan and or other relevant documents, affirming that Cochrane should grow sustainably to balance population growth with municipal financial capacity, infrastructure planning, community service delivery, housing affordability, environmental stewardship, and overall quality of life. And again, to clarify, this is all draft, and I intend to consult with all of Council as well as our administration in the weeks ahead. Any questions, comments? Can I get a motion to accept the mayor's report? Councillor McFadden.
I move to accept the mayor's report.
Okay, conversation, seeing none, call the question, all in favor? Mayor's report accepted. Stay tuned, 2026. So that brings us into council reports. Who's got one? End of the year, someone must have something. Oh, Councillor McDonald.
Just a quick update here, since it is the last council meeting of 2025. During the last 2 weeks, I attended the first CSHO board meeting as a councillor, so that's Cochrane Society for Housing Options. This is a local nonprofit whose board I've sat on as a volunteer director for over a year and have now transitioned within that seat to being a council representative. The organization works hard for their existing tenants, always exploring new opportunities to expand housing options in Cochrane and turning donated building materials into revenue through their social enterprise, Home Reno Heaven. Cochrane Light Up, a few of us attended. It was a great success, showcasing the incredible work that Cochrane volunteers accomplish. I wanted to just publicly thank Chris Heyer and the Cochrane Light Up Organizing Committee. The Filipino-Canadian Association of Cochrane held their holiday multicultural party, and I was delighted to attend that. celebrating Cochrane's rich cultural diversity. It was a heck of a party, and I want to thank them for inviting council. And on December 3rd, I joined Inclusion Cochrane, the town of Cochrane, and the Cochrane Public Library to celebrate the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, with presentations there by 2 impressive athletes, resource tables, activities, and a sensory-friendly story time for children of all abilities. The event was a beautiful step towards greater visibility for all abilities living within our community. I want to say that this role has come with plenty of fun days and plenty of hard days, and many more of both those categories lie ahead. But getting to see what our passionate, active community members are up to, kind of front row, has been incredibly gratifying.
All right.
That's all I got.
Excellent. Any conversation around that? Councilor McFadden, your report?
Yes, I don't have a written report this time, but I did want to give a couple of shout outs. First, shout out to Councillor Federico. Thank you for organizing and bringing the EMS parades in support of the food bank back. I was fortunate enough to join the crew last night with my son, and it was just great to go around the community and pick up food donations and toy donations for the food bank. So I really appreciate you bringing those back. And you know, it's like reverse Halloween. You're driving by with sirens and lots of noise, and people are running out to give you food and treats. So it's a great initiative. So thank you for bringing that back. Kudos to you and to all the volunteers that make that happen. And then as we head into the Christmas season, I imagine everybody else is spot further into Christmas than I am. But as you're looking to do your shopping, I urge everyone to shop local and send me your hits for like best local hot chocolates and treats for the season. I much appreciate that. And then also I just wanted to recommend hit up the Cochrane Farmers Market Christmas Market this weekend, December 13th and 14th, which is another one of my places to shop. And as I know we're going to see each other, I think, tomorrow, most everyone. But I just wanted to say thank you to everyone in the room and to the community. You know, since the election, it's been a busy time, but it is truly a pleasure being back around the table. And we are truly making things happen quickly and in a very respectful, and it's fun to be back around the table again. So thank you everyone for making that happen and helping me feel empowered again. And best of luck with the new year. I know we're going to see you again, but yeah, thanks so much. It's been a great start to this new term.
Councillor Singh.
The past few weeks has been inspiring, and I'm excited to share some highlights. Some of the community events, the Homeschool Youth Entrepreneur Market at SLS, incredibly creative and confidence from young entrepreneurs, and a fantastic reflection of potential in our youth. Cochrane District Chamber of Commerce Christmas Party, great connected with local business leaders. Cochrane Light Up, thank you to the organizers, sponsors, and volunteers for creating such a heartwarming event. Attending the Multicultural Christmas Party, organized by Filipino Canadian Association, along with our Mayor and Councillor McDonald's, and Stuff a Bus Toy Drive, organized by Cochrane Area Event Society. I want to say a special thanks to Cochrane Activates and Cochrane Food Bank for Share Your Christmas 2025. The upcoming events, December 25, Cochrane Immigrant Services Committee Jingle Mingle, ensuring no one eats alone on Christmas Day. And on December 31st, Free Family Day New Year's Eve celebration at SLS Center, organized by Cochrane Area Event Society. From my council work, I've attended my first Rocky Foundation committee meeting, excited to collaborate on seniors housing and the new lodge project in Cochrane. Very passionate about that. New feature in my council reports. Starting this month, I'm excited to add something new to my updates. Each report now will include a spotlight on a local Cochrane business, whether it's just starting out or celebrating an important milestone. If you like to celebrate a local business doing a great work or have your own business featured, you can email me at paul.singh@cochrane.ca to nominate them. And a highlight of a local nonprofit, athlete, sports team, or a community member making a positive impact. This week, I'm thrilled to feature SurePrint and Copy Center, proudly serving Cochrane since December 1995. Over 30 years of dedication and commitment to our town, What an incredible achievement. Congratulations to the entire team for all you do to support our community. Closing message, wishing all residents a warm, a joyful holiday season and a prosperous new year. Council is committed to listening, learning, and working collaboratively to plan for Cochrane long-term needs. Together with administration, we can build a community that reflects values, hope, and voice of all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Believe it's Councillor Federico.
Before I start my report, I wanted to echo what Councillor McFadden said. It's been an incredible start to a good term, and I look forward to the future. I think we've got some big decisions, some hard decisions. We're not always going to agree, but I have to say it's been an incredible, respectful group sitting around the table. So thank you to each and every one of you. I did not make it to Cochrane Light Up. It conflicted with my Christmas party in my other job, but I'm sad that I missed it. It's probably one of my only ones that I've missed out of the last, I don't even know how many years. So congrats to the organizers who I hear did a heck of a job. And then lastly, I have spent 7 nights, probably anywhere between 30 to 40 hours, hitting every single community, every street in Cochrane, I think, collecting donations for the Share Your Christmas parades. I couldn't have done it without the help, and I'll list the groups that were involved. These parades came on very quickly, very suddenly, with not a lot of time to be able to pull it together. But if it wasn't for the people in the background helping to make that happen, they wouldn't have happened at all. And I have to tell you that this year was the most donations that we have ever collected out of the 6 parades that I've held. So I can't thank the residents enough, but also these participants. Cochrane Fire Services were out there every night. Saracen Fire and Rescue. I got to tell you, this group really came and did it well. They not only had Santa every night, but we have blow-ups on trucks. And I got to tell you, 5 fire trucks in a neighborhood, we make a lot of noise. Cochrane RCMP, Cochrane Search and Rescue, Cochrane Activettes, the Cochrane Food Bank, Urban Casual for allowing me to take over their feed, and the Town of Cochrane Communications team for helping to share the word. We've already been asked for other groups to join us next year, so I only see the parades getting bigger, better, and unfortunately maybe a little bit more noisy. But it's all for a great cause, and at the end of the day, we will likely have to fulfill somewhere between well over 300, if not 400 baskets for families in need. So thank you to everybody that donated.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on your report. My dogs certainly noticed your parades. So, yeah, no problem. A little bit of holiday cheer for the dogs. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you. I have nothing prepared. I had a 4-pager. I had you guys sit through last regular meeting about all the different policy that I would like to see advanced in 2026. I'll be bringing a lot of that forward. We need to get Cochrane's financial house in order, but for now, it's just thank you for being a great council and setting up a great culture to start out this term, as been echoed around the board. Not just the 3 returning, but the 3 new councillors have fit in as a pretty amazing group, and it's a pleasure coming to work and doing what we do together. So I look forward to it in 2026, getting down to business with all we have to do. But Merry Christmas, council and administration.
Okay. Can I get a motion to accept council reports? Councillor McDonald. Call the question. All in favor? All right, and that brings us to the end of the public portion of our meeting. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And we need a motion to go into closed session. 2 closed sessions on tonight's agenda. Councillor Singh?
To go in the closed session?
Okay. Call the question. All in favor? Carried. I'll take a moment to boot our guests out of the chambers.